Boy, it's been a while since we've done one of these. Hey guys, welcome back to Mithril Towers. I am Mithril and I'll be your host for all things Middle-earth for this series. Welcome back to another Let's Talk Tabletop episode, and today I'm talking about the cunning and maliciously evil wizard Saruman the White. Leader of the Istari, head of the White Council, and friend to many in Middle-earth, Saruman the White was a key part of the defence of Middle-earth and the forces of darkness until the temptation of the ring and Sauron proved too much for him, and he decided to turn against the forces of good and join the Dark Lord Sauron, birthing his army of Uruk-hai and to help lay siege to Middle-earth. So again, as always, I'll be going through his stat line, the options available to him, what he does on the tabletop, and then I will be going through my pros and cons just to finish off this episode of Let's Talk Tabletop. So Saruman the White is the leader of the forces of Isengard. He is 180 points, hero of legend. So he's ever so slightly more pricey base than the other wizards, Gandalf and Radagast. His stat line is as such. He has a move value of 6 inches. He has a fight value of 5/4+, so he's no slouch in combat, and he can throw things pretty well. He has a strength of 4, which again is fairly standard across most hero profiles. A defense of 5, which is what we tend to see across these wizard profiles. They're not really sporting much heavy armour, or in fact any armour at all, apart from their flashy, fancy robes. So defense 5 is fairly consistent there. 1 attack with 3 wounds. Again, consistent across wizards. They don't drop very easily, but they're not very great in combat. Courage 7, so he's not going to run away anytime soon. And he has 3 might, 6 will, and 3 fate. He also has his Staff of Power as his only equipment, which gives him his 3 point of will every turn, as indicated by the asterisk, which is, again, consistent across all big magic users, predominantly the wizards. Now, Saruman only has 1 heroic action available to him, in contrary to Gandalf, who we've already explored before. He only has heroic channeling available to him, so he is only able to beef up his spells. He's not going to be doing anything to kind of help his combat prowess or stop him getting hit for heroic strike, heroic defense, none of that. He's literally there to be a magic spellcasting gun platform, effectively. Now, Saruman has a couple of special rules which are unique to him. He has, of course, available to him the Palantir, that awfully tempting ball bearing, which sees foul and corrupts Saruman in the films and the books. The Palantir can be used once per game, and basically what it does is it lets you auto-win a priority roll for a turn. So if there's a turn in particular where you need to make sure you go first and don't want to risk that 50-50 dice off with your opponent, you can declare you're using the Palantir, gaze into the future, have a little tete-a-tete with Sauron, and he will give you the priority for that turn, and you can then make sure you go first. Yeah, it can be quite good in a pinch, particularly if you're on the back foot, or if you've got some a hero somewhere that you need to push in to disrupt something else, or if you're trying to disrupt someone else's heroic move or anything like that, you can guarantee yourself going first, which is really, really cool, and kind of helps marry in with that manipulative element of Saruman, which is what he was all about in his portrayal in the films, at the very least. He has another special rule, the Voice of Kuranir. My days, I hope I'm saying that right. This effectively is a 12-inch stand fast. Yeah, so he can keep all his Uruks, all his minions in the fight from a good distance away. He doesn't have to get quite up and involved in the combats to make sure that his units stay where they want them to stay and don't flee the courage test, which is really good considering Saruman isn't a combat wizard. Saruman is much more that unseen manipulator from behind the scenes, which is perfect and beautiful because it fits in really neatly with him, as I've clearly already said. It's also important to note that this does affect other heroes as well, so you're going to be keeping Grima, your Lurts, all your Uruk-hai captains. Yeah, combining that with the Isengard army bonus, where you don't take courage tests until you reach a third of your starting force. You count as broken, but you don't take courage tests until you get to a third. So yeah, your Uruks go from courage 3, going to run away when things get a little bit too iffy for them, or the forces of Rohan start pushing back, to no, we ain't going anywhere. We're going to stay and see this fight through to the bitter end. So yeah, it's a really good way of just making sure that immovable block of Uruk-hai swordsmen and pikemen stays pretty immovable. The last of his special rules, Lord of the Istari. As I said earlier, he is the head of the Istar, the head of the Maya, who came down to Middle-earth. And this special rule gives him a reroll once per turn when either casting or resisting magical powers, which again is super cool, super themey, with him being the head of the White Council. and arguably the strongest wizard in Middle Earth up until Gandalf the White took that mantle from him. So it just gives him that little bit more utility and lets him kind of stretch his resources a little bit more. You're not going to be worried too much about putting 2 or 3 will points into something that you want to cast when you've got the ability to take a reroll, just to make sure that you get that power off, or at least improve your chances, effectively giving you a 2-for-1 on dice when it comes to casting spells, which is really cool, but only once per turn though. So just remember that if you're getting cast back out. So his list of magical powers isn't quite as extensive as that of Gandalf's. It's kind of on par more with Radagast, and it's quite fun to see that they've taken the opportunity to really kind of be a bit themey with each wizard. You see Gandalf's got kind of like most of the generic kind of spells, and probably the more options available to him being Gandalf, whereas Saruman's got more of the again, the manipulative damage dealing spells, moving enemy pieces around on the board, stopping them from moving, and then just doing all out damage. And then obviously we get onto Radagast later on in the future, and you see he's got quite a lot of the resource renewing, quite a lot of the natural, what would you say, like the more peaceful spells, I suppose is probably the best way of putting it. But to quickly dive down into his magical powers, he has got Immobilize, which is 18-inch on a 2+. He has Terrifying Aura, as I think all the wizards have that. That is again cast on a 2+. He has Command, which is 18 inches, again this time cast on a 3+. Sorcerer's Blast, 12 inches with a 4+ to cast. And he has Flame Burst as well, which is only a 6-inch range and cast on a 5+. So it's nice they've included that as one of his magic powers, just to keep it in theme and really, really cool. And if you want to set fire to something and set it ablaze, then you've got, with your Lord of Istari special, you've got potentially 2 rolls at getting this 5+ dice roll off. So can be really quite nasty. It does a hit and then sets the model ablaze. So you're not only doing potential consistent damage to this model for future turns, you're also then forcing it to have to go down prone and then roll around on the floor for a little bit to put the fire out. So not only are you doing damage, you're also manipulating the future turn or the next turn for something potentially quite key. I mean, setting Aragorn on fire in the middle of the battlefield has got to feel pretty good, right? It's interesting to note as well that quite a lot of these powers, Command and Sorcerer's Blast in particular, have a lower casting value than Gandalf and Radagast. Again, that just really fits in with the theme of him being the Lord of the Istari, the head of the White Council, the strongest, most potent magic user in Middle-earth, up until Gandalf the White turns up. It's important to note as well, you can give him a horse for 10 points. So that does make him 190 points. But I think giving him that 10-inch range to be able to run around your armies, run around to key points, and then blast with magic, probably you're going to be doing that more often than not, I would assume. At least I certainly would. So yes, he is a super big support piece. He's probably one of the most expensive support pieces you can get in the Middle-earth game. He's not going to be going toe-to-toe with anyone in combat. If he is, you've either positioned him pretty poorly, or the opponent has made a beeline for him, knowing exactly what he can do. He's not going to drop immediately in combat. 3 wounds, 3 fate, and fight value 5. He'll be able to hold his own against 1, maybe 2 opponents, but any concerted effort onto him is going to be one pretty dead Saruman pretty quickly, I'd imagine. Because he just doesn't have the ability to hit back quite as hard. Doesn't have that strike. He can't raise his fight value to come up against Aragorn. If he were to throw himself against Saruman. And defensively, he hasn't got a great deal other than just Terrifying Aura and potentially being able to run away. You tend to see him in bigger point value games. I would struggle to see a point where I would take him in anything short of at least 700 points. And even then, he's over a quarter of your overall points allowance. And Uruk-hai aren't cheap. They're not the cheapest army to play. Bog standard Uruks are 10 points with a shield. So to get a full warband of 12 Uruks or 18 Uruks, because he's here as a legend, plus Saruman, I mean, you're looking at over half your point allowance at a 700 game. And that's quite a heavy sink. I would tend to, and I appreciate it's just me personally, I tend to run him in games that are at least 1,000 points, because at least I know I've got enough Uruks to back him up should anything go, completely sideways. Yeah, I think he could be quite hit or miss. It's that balance between, he's got a really brilliantly themey and a stat line, which they've captured him perfectly, I think, for the game. I really think they've really nailed this this stat line, this profile. but also finding his utility and finding out where he's going to shine the best on the tabletop takes some practice with him, I think. His special rules really can make a big difference on the tabletop. Stealing the priority once per turn can get him out of a jam potentially as well. There's also that option. So you can kind of guarantee your safety at least one turn. If you haven't used it by the point Aragorn starts charging in or in range to charge in, you can just be like, nah, I'm out of dodge, bye. And his voice of the Istari, giving him that extra reroll, which then means his resource reserves potentially go a lot longer than other magic users would. It's important to note as well that if you are taking Saruman in your Isengard army, you do get the option of taking Grima alongside him, Grima Wormtongue, who you can't take normally in Isengard list. You can only take him if you include Saruman. He is a 25-point hero. I'll be doing a deep dive on him at some point, but just to give you a quick overrun for those who don't know, Grima deploys alongside the enemy warbands, and whenever somebody wants to use a might point or any of their resources to do anything, it costs them 2 rather than 1. So any heroic moves, any heroic actions, it will cost them 2 might points to use rather than the normal 1 if they're within, I think it's 6 inches of Grima. So that also helps Saruman when it comes to stretching his resources and making sure that he's got everything he needs to be able to do what he wants on the tabletop. And again, promoting that unseen manipulator, that behind the lines, pulling the strings element, because not only are you draining the opponent's resources, which then means they can't hit you back as hard, potentially won't be getting the move on you, won't be getting the strikes, the strengths, that kind of thing. But it also means that Saruman's resources go a lot further, as the opponent doesn't have the resources potentially, if they've been drained by Grima, to resist any of the spells that Saruman throws their way. So you could end up shutting down big key pieces quite easily. So yeah, the key to succeeding with Saruman is positioning and not overstretching yourself with these key pieces and risk putting them at danger of being taken off the tabletop. But that is my quick little deep dive into Saruman. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell for video uploads. I'm going to be away on holiday next week. I plan to have a video or 2 lined up to be released when I am away. But if not, just be aware that'll be why there might not be a video next week. So I am away with Mrs. and Mini Mithril. But until next time, guys, I really hope you enjoyed. Take care and happy hobbying. Bye, guys.